Hi folks, and welcome back to another Grand Tactician Civil War campaign where we're going to play as the Union. But wait, I hear you say, I thought you'd had enough of this last time I played this. And yeah, we ran into some problems with that. However, I need to say a big shout out and a thank you to Mr. Dids, who left an awesomely useful comment under that video explaining how to change a few settings. So with that in mind, we have changed the readiness values in the game, and we've changed some of the artillery values and some other cool stuff to make this play better. I hope. We're going to give it another try because I need an American Civil War fix, and this is one of the best American Civil War campaign games that there really is. And we're kind of in short supply of those, so this is the best of the bunch, which isn't a good thing to say about the state of the genre, really. However, we're going to give it a try, play as a Union, and I'll link all the stuff that I've changed in the description down below, and links to the Steam forums and stuff, so if you want to check it out, alter your game to try it to see if it plays any better, you are welcome to. Anyway, that's enough. Let's jump right in and go save the Union. So we're going to start in the spring of 1861. This is my favourite way to play most war games. Start from the beginning, make your changes, play it as the war starts. And we're going to be playing as a Union. Now, we've got to talk a little bit about difficulty levels here, because this game has some rather confusing difficulty levels. You know, you'd pretty be certain in most of the games that like mediocre, medium would be the standard difficulty. But actually, no. In this game, very easy is the equivalent of normal difficulty in most of the war games. That is to say that at very easy level, the AI doesn't get any bonuses or any penalties. So think of it as the base level, if you like. Yeah, it's weird. I wasn't aware of this, so again, thank you to Mr. Dids for pointing this out. And so if we give them any bonuses here, it actually increases the amount of damage that they do and how willing they are to go all out recruiting and basically more manpower and things like that. So a truly accurately historical campaign would be played as very easy and aggressiveness calm. We are, however, armed with this knowledge, just going to bump this up just by one, just to give the Confederacy a bit more staying power in the field and to give me a bit more of a challenge as well. I think we should be okay. Other important decisions, order delays we're going to turn off. I like order delays for a lot of things, but actually because the game is a little bit janky, particularly in the tactical battles, having them turned on causes some problems when the game suddenly decides to redeploy your army and mismatch divisions, and it just messes things up, I think. Fog of War is excellent, we leave that turned on. The readiness system is in place, but it is modified. Check out the description. We've reduced the values, or rather we've increased the rate at which it recovers. So we can't just go storming off through enemy territory. We will need to rest after battles, which is good, but this makes it now playable. Again, I think the difficulty also modifies that. The higher it is, I think the longer it takes to recover after a battle. But anyway, I've tested this out. It works a bit better. Feuds are an awesome feature of the Civil War. It captures the character of the the characters in there, I think, perfectly. The generals, the divisional leaders, and the politicians. And that they will fall out with each other and not follow each other's orders. I think that needs to stay in. And the auto manage, of course, we leave off because we want to be in charge of all the decisions for purchasing and industry and all the rest. So let's jump in, start the campaign. Okay, here we go. It is February the 22nd, 1861. Things will be kicking off in a couple of months' time, and actually there's not a lot you can do at this early stage in the game, apart from some admin decisions, really. I mean, Lincoln hasn't fully taken over as president at this point, and therefore we have little we can do. We can go in and see what's available to buy in weapons, and we start the game only being able to order, and we need to... There's one thing with the game, we do need to keep clicking things like this to make sure things refresh. One of my bugbears about the game is the menu system, and the filters have to be constantly re-enabled, but I will edit as much of that out as I can so it doesn't get in the viewing experience for you guys, but it's fine. So we actually start the game being able to order 24-pounder howitzers. These things are incredible. They're one of the best weapons in the game, so we're going to put a massive order in for 512 and just spend all the money, and we'll worry about the debt and paying that back later, like any good government should do. 12-pounder howitzers, I don't find these as good. However, they're not terrible, and they can be used... I don't know, I give them to armies that I'm planning to besiege forts with, and they're not amazing, but we'll order a few. We'll keep that cheap, and we'll get some new ones in. All the smaller orders will be quicker to arrive as well. There's nothing we can do in the way of ordering rifles and stuff at the moment, so that's not a worry. We can't play with the military. We can do some building, and we should do. Now, one thing The building and the economy side of the game is very confusing, and often people say the economy side you can ignore because just forget about it. It's not going to make any difference by the time you've won the game anyway. So you won't get a return on what you build. And I think that's mostly true. But I would keep auto manage and auto placement turned off, because otherwise the AI will do it all for you and they will spend all your money, which are better spent on guns and bombs. We can, however, build hospitals, which are actually quite useful. And you kind of want these things somewhere near the front. So can we stick one... Actually, can we stick one in Washington? It wants to be nearby. We can. We can stick one right... Let's get it close to the front as possible. Right there. Yeah, we'll build a hospital. We know there's going to be fighting around here. So it's a hospital, I think, has a radius around it. And any of your armies stationed in there get a higher recovery rate of their wounded and disabled soldiers. Around the rest of the map, I'm not sure where we're going to be fighting heavily, so I don't know whether it's worth investing at the moment. We can always build them later. And the other thing we can do, and I find this hilarious, is we can build prison camps. We are going to build a couple so that we are prepared. Harrisburg, you know what? The Confederates did get there, so we'll maybe not put one at Harrisburg. We don't want them freeing any of their friends. Let's have one in Philadelphia, rather. Don't want railroads. I don't think railroads are probably worth building. We'll put one in the center and maybe one in the west. So let's put them up in Detroit. Detroit's perfect. Put one up there. And one over here near Chicago. And that should do... We get a little warning if the prison camps fill up. But could you imagine, folks, the propaganda value to the south if they heard that the north was building prison camps as early as February 61? Yeah, we'll keep that quiet. I'm sure they'll never hear about it. So the next big thing we have to look at are our finances. And these are subsidies. These are super important because they're basically like research into new projects and improvements. And one thing we can save on for the start is we don't need to put subsidies into politics. And I'll show you why, really. But these basically, the more subsidies we have, the more or the sooner we can choose some of these projects over here. Now, these are going to be useful. This is how we're going to develop our own weapons industry for artillery and our own homegrown rifles and reboard muskets. In fact, let's go through these one by one and let's go through like politics. So by putting subsidies in, we'll be able to unlock these politics. We can buy some old Hall's carbines for the cavalry. I don't think you get many. I don't think it's worth doing. And the rest of this, I think we can probably manage without it early on. The only reason we would want more politics subsidies is because increase the number of policies, see that +2, that you can have. However, at the start of the game, we can have, I think, 6 of these before you hit our limit. And so speaking of which, we should get something going on in here as well. And a good one is probably military 1 to start with. We will get these. Now, these are the terms of enlistment, the contract length for the soldiers. 3 months, 12 months. Yeah, we get 3 months for free if we wait until the war kicks off. And then we can quickly get 12 and 24 months. And at that point, we're pretty much good. We recruit soldiers, and then they will stay in the ranks for 24 months. And then, well, if any of them are still left alive, they might go home. So I think we'll start with military 1. That's one of my favorites. There's industry, there's agriculture. These also affect the amount of subsidies we can do as well. But military 1's probably a good one to pick to start the game off with. It'll give us something, and it leads on to military 2. Which, there's all sorts of useful stuff down here as well. Pretty much everything is kind of useful. I think probably industrialization less so. But anyway, so back to our projects. So we'll skip doing money into politics for now. It's one of the most... economy is also something we can just hold off on. Improved credit rating is a good one, so we maybe should have a little bit going in. Agriculture is very useful because of farm mechanization. This increases farm output, but it also means less people are required to work the land, which means more people can be recruited into the army. So that's a good one to have a bit in. Industry is actually not as great as I used to think it is. We can increase weapons production, but we'll maybe try and hold off on that a little bit. Military is the big one. This is where we're going to want most of these, or the majority of them anyway. And there's various things about reforming the army and the supply system and all sorts of stuff. Where military subsidies are going to be massive to us, and it's how we're going to get better weapons, our own homegrown stuff anyway. And then there is diplomacy. Diplomacy, if we can click on that there, letters. It does allow us to buy British rifles, Austrian rifles, foreign artillery. This is more useful as the Confederacy, which has a smaller industry, I feel. But, I mean, the North did buy foreign rifles to supplement their own production. We may do it. We may do it. So we'll probably have a little bit in there. Anyway, let's go and set some subsidies off. Economy, we'll put most of these at medium, I think. Agriculture, medium. Industry I'm not fussed about at the moment, so I'll just stick it on very low. We need to be careful what we spend. I'm going to max out military. I'm just going to go straight in, put these at medium. So this is going to spend some money, and if the credit rating drops too low, see this at the top of the screen, we may have to cut back on this, but that should do for now. Okay, so nothing we can do. I will skip forward the time and all the bits where nothing is happening, and we shall report back in when something is worthy of reporting on. Jefferson Davis has been inaugurated, February 24th. And look at that, we've issued bonds already, actually, just to cover all our spending on prison camps. Okay, looks like Missouri's trying to break away. Historically, it didn't actually secede from the Union, but there was a lot of Confederate support there. Same with Kentucky, actually. But for the most part, the more support went to the North. Fort Sumter situation deteriorates. Well, that's heading in a bad direction. Texas joins the Confederacy March the 2nd, 1861. Well, it looks like the Confederate States are pulling together a militia. At this point, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia haven't seceded. When they go out, then, well, I think they go out with the firing of Fort Sumter. March the 4th, Lincoln takes over. It feels like everything's heading to some sort of crescendo. Confederates have called up an army of 100,000 men. What do we have? About 16,000. Don't worry, we will put that right with our volunteer forces. By the way, folks, the music in this game is fantastic. I'm a huge fan of Civil War era music, and this game actually does all of that really well. Some really jaunty tunes. All right, we got our military one policy. I'll just show you what that does, actually. So this basically, you just hover over it. Some of these you have to click on, others you have to hover over to get the active up. Basically, it permits the financing of further military projects, including introduction of new weapon and ship types, as well as military reform. So it's something that we absolutely have to do, have to go down. We can't go for this until the war actually starts, so all we can do is pick other things. And we could pick this one, we get it in 12.5 days, but then we get this anyway for free, so I'm not going to waste the time on that. The regulars option, this will basically form a brigade of regulars, instead of spreading the regulars out amongst the brigades of volunteers when the war starts. It does affect the military experience, but it gives us one unit of pretty reliable troops. I don't think it's that necessary. We could go for a legal blockade. That would be quite good, actually. That might hold back Confederate trade a little bit. Agriculture's good, especially later on. We can trade with Europe for that, and we can earn some big money, which is probably going to be worth financing the war. Speaking of financing the war, it might not be a bad idea to take some funding. It's going to take a month. Yeah, go for it. And then as soon as that's done, that'll take us into April. We can actually start working on the Militia Act and get that done. We don't want to recruit too many men when the contract time is so low, because when the contracts are up, about half of them go home again. So it could leave us with a lot of weakened units. You know what? Let's go for that and get some government funding in place. It opens up the options for printing notes, which over the long term I think are probably quite good, and the Tariff Act is good as well. Supply situation of Fort Sumter is critical. Lincoln plans a relief expedition. Let's just take a look at where Fort Sumter is on the map. So that's it, right down there, surrounded by a lot of potentially hostile fellow Americans at the moment. We should maybe talk about the strategy I have for winning the war. We'll maybe talk about it more when I start recruiting units. But obviously we want to... we need to hold our own territory. We need to hold the capital. That's important. But we need to deny the border states to the Confederacy. They take actually can take a lot of support from Tennessee, Kentucky, and Missouri. And we need to, especially the Kentucky and Missouri, we need to hold those, push them out completely, and then deny them as much of Tennessee as quickly as possible, because these are, well, there's quite a lot of resources and manpower comes from these, and if we can reduce Confederate support, it gives us an easier time. We will, of course, work the blockade as well, a little bit. The naval game isn't quite as much fun, but I do kind of like trying to invade and take ports down, forts, I should say, down the seaboard. It's kind of fun. We'll see if we can do some naval invasions as well. And I dare say there'll be some big, big battles over in Virginia. Oh, look at this. I also nearly missed the little exclamation saying our first project is available. This is thanks to our military subsidies. So if we click on this one, we can finance the mass production of Springfield armories modified and cheaper to produce Springfield rifle muskets. Now, these are good, reliable weapons. We absolutely want that, and this is going to allow us to actually get something better than just smoothbore muskets. So now we can nip over to this panel, and we have 18,000 in stock, but we are going for mass production. And we're going to order 50,000 pieces, which is going to take a year and a half. Not the best time. This does speed up, I believe. The more we order of a certain weapon, the quicker they become to produce as standardization. There we go, standardization value there. I think that makes them more reliable and less likely to break, but also quicker to produce more. I think. I'm not sure about the background mechanics of that. So stick in that order. We will need those. As we can see from the other things, we put orders available. We can see what we have got in stock. And there's some unusual cavalry carbines. The Burnside carbine I'm familiar with. The Maynard, not so much, but we have a lot of those. And then there's some old rifles. We'll try and make use of them, but I honestly don't know how useful they will be. April the 12th, 1861, Beauregard issues ultimatum. Beauregard was the Confederate commander in Charleston Harbor, looking out over Fort Sumter. And Fort Sumter surrenders, April 13th, 1861. So that's it. The war has started. We're going to see some action kicking off. Lincoln calls for volunteers. It's time to march south, I think, and put this business to bed.
This step, secession, once taken, can never be recalled. We and our posterity shall see our lovely South desolated by the demon of war. Alexander Stephens, Vice President of the Confederate States of America.
And there we go. So the armies are on the scene. So there's an awful lot of admin to do when the game starts. Looks like they're already on the move. So we do get an army full of volunteers led by McDowell in Washington. They also get a small army of the Potomac over there. It's a small army. Now this is where we've got some decisions to make, because if we go and have a look at our projects, our policies, we can see we got the Militia Act for free there, which is excellent. So we've got 3-month volunteers at the moment. That's not great. We don't want to recruit many of those. Can I actually cancel that one? Can I cancel policy? Are you sure? It's cancels depending policies. Policy slots will become available. Yeah, go on, cancel that, because does it then... Okay, so we don't lose the time spent on it. That's fine. I want to go straight to 12 months. And even then, I don't want to recruit many 12-month volunteers. We want to get to 24 months. And at that point, we can feel a lot happier about recruiting volunteers. That'll be great. However, the South may well just suddenly come and try and curb stomp us immediately. So we do need... I don't know how these guys are moving so quickly. I guess... I mean, we're in a state of complete unreadiness. We can't actually move anywhere. They look like they're steaming in for an attack, or perhaps going after Fort Washington. It does give us a few questions to be asked, actually. I mean, about reinforcing forts. I don't know if it's a great idea. They do hold up longer in a siege, but then men in a fort will eventually just, be defeated anyway, won't they? So we do need some recruits, though. We're going to avoid going into Kentucky. Now, I don't think there's rules for it in this game, but in other Civil War games I've played, the first side to move troops into Kentucky basically forces the state to declare for the other side. That was the case in AGOD Civil War. I don't think it's the case here. However, we're going to roleplay as if it is. So we're not going to go into Kentucky until we see the Confederates moving in first. Or we suspect the Confederates have moved in. Remember, we've got fog of war. So when we see something like this, we don't know there's a Confederate army there. We just suspect it. And of course, we can use that for a false flag argument for going and liberating Kentucky. Anyway, over in Missouri, we are going to need to hold this. And the Missouri State Guard under Price have formed. So we're going to recruit some troops under here. We've got General Lyon there. Nathaniel Lyon. He was, I don't know, he didn't live very long. I think he was killed quite early in the war, but he seemed to be a fairly decent commander to start with. And William Harney, I don't actually know anything about him at all, except that he's a volunteer. So what we are going to do is we're going to recruit another unit under Harney. We're not going to bother forming divisions and stuff just yet. And we're going to recruit from someone locally. So who can we get? Can we get some from... Actually, do we have much support in Missouri? Not enough for a whole brigade of infantry, sadly. However, there must be somewhere nearby. Ohio is not that close. Who've we got? The reason we want to recruit locally is because it means they will arrive faster. They don't have to march across the entire map. Illinois is reasonably close. Indiana's reasonable. Oh, Indiana will do. Yeah, let's put some Indiana guys in. We've got 3,000 infantry. Recruit those. Now, because... Yeah, these guys are armed with Springfield muskets. We're going to give these the same as well. And then we give them the Springfield rifled musket. Actually, I could give them the Mississippi rifle. Do you know what? I'm going to do that because we don't produce these. These are produced in the South. And therefore, half of these are going to go home in 3 months. And therefore, some of those stocks will be returned, which means that we're not going to have to worry too much about having enough rifles to issue to new recruits. Does that make sense? I'll try and explain that better as we go. Commander, we've got Lieutenant Colonel. Lieutenant Colonel. We're Americans. Abner Doubleday. He's an artilleryman. Do you know what? Let's put an infantryman in place. And this is a good opportunity, actually, to use... Charles Stone is actually quite decent. But if we can dig out people who are actually quite good, we can get them in positions and get them getting experience quite early on. Don Carlos Buell is a good army administrator, but not very good for anything else. So we'll use him as a trainer somewhere. We can actually alter this by... Oh, we've got a hooker. We could put a hooker in there. He'll do to start with to get some experience. Also a good administrator. He should actually be an army leader, I think. So the colonels are quite good. We can actually promote up from captains and majors and all the rest. We've got Franklin down here. We've got a Grant in there. Captain Ulysses S. Grant. Do you know what? Let's assign him. We can reassign him pretty quickly, I think. We'll get him some combat experience if we can. Notice how these stats have gone down a little bit because he's had the promotion. Oh, one of the changes that's been made, it's a little mod that I've downloaded. I will link it down below. I changed the artillery. It's also changed the rank at which they can command these units here, which I think is actually quite good. So we'll also add in, and we'll go to Missouri for this, because they'll come a lot quicker if we can find it. Missouri, we'll go for some artillery, and we'll just put 2 of those in there as well. So I'm going to do this across the land, get a few recruits in. You have... So we've got a... Oh, okay. We've got a politically assigned general here. They can only be assigned, I think, to units from their state. Is that right? State... No, it should... Oh, commander. It should say where he's from, right? No. No, I don't know. But I think there are some limits to that. And it's also put Halleck in there. We don't want him in the artillery. We will actually pick an artillery expert, I think, for this. And we'll get someone good who can then be promoted. Oh, wow. Captain John Gibbon. If he survives, he'll be useful. It's a good way of getting some experience into the troops, and then we can promote them up as well. So that's fine. So we've got some units there over in Missouri who they'll take a little while to form, but when they do, they can go and chase off the Missouri State Guard. And we may... I think the artillery will take longer to form, so we may just form them into another unit or form another command to go chasing these guys off once the infantry turn up. We should be able to do that. And then, obviously, we're going to need to... We've got McClellan over here. Now, the Confederates will try and make a play and hold on to West Virginia. If we can take... I think it's Grafton... What's this? Is it Charleston and... Is it Wheeling? There's another one somewhere. Oh, Wheeling up there. I think if we hold those, then West Virginia will flip and break away from Virginia and join us. So that's something we want to do. But we don't want to recruit all our recruits just yet, because having a load of 3-month volunteers all go home in 3 months' time sucks. But we do need enough just to make sure the damn Rebs don't cause trouble for us. So we'll do that off recording, and we'll come back afterwards. Okay, so a few changes have been made. We've obviously got the forces mustering in St. Louis. We've also formed... Now, these are what I call training armies. So we've actually put Don Carlos Buell into a little army. He's only going to have one brigade to start with because I don't want a lot of these 3-month volunteers. We're going to place him at Cairo, Illinois. And he's going to be there just to fortify the place and just provide some sort of deterrence to Confederate raiding. We're going to get a fort built over there. We've also got... Oh, and by the way, having commanders like this, which I don't think these make great field commanders, to be quite honest. However, they're decent at administration, which means training troops and getting them prepared. So we can put troops in here to train and muster, and then when they're ready and formed up, we can then transfer them to field armies, which is going to be the way to do it. We've also got, under the same idea, we've got the Central Department under Halleck doing the same thing in Cincinnati. And because we're also going to need a force to hold Washington all the time, because the Rebs just love to come and grab this, we've got old Winfield Scott who'll be doing that. And I've given him 6,000 men to start with. And hopefully, with the other forces available nearby, that will be enough to dissuade the rebels from coming, at least until we can get 12-month volunteers, and I will recruit a few more just to bolster the forces. Remember, we kind of have to do this to stop the rebels come storming in. And do you know what? I don't like the look of this. It looks like they're going straight for this fort over here. They can cross the river down here. And so, to that end, we do have a navy, but these are big ships. I don't think the big ships can travel that far inland, so I have put together a little force of ships, gunboats, and fourth-rate steamers. Now, I don't know if we can actually travel up there and block that crossing point with ships. I honestly don't know if the game allows to do that, but it seems like a good idea. So we're going to try it out. And those ships aren't much good for anything else. Certainly not for running up against forts down the Confederate coast. That's interesting. Is that showing... oh, okay. Have they not seceded? Oh, they're still under our control. That is obviously not right, because that is going to change almost straight away. Let's go and see what those Rebs do over there. They come to Alexandria and stopped. Now, we do have a bit of a spend. I've built some markets as well, which is supposed to aid with local transport for supplies and getting goods moved around. I don't know if they're a good thing to do. So if you do know, let me know in the comments, folks, guys. Let me know what you think. I think we're going to start an early campaign. We've got the army of... Well, it's the Army of Northern Virginia under McDowell. And facing them, there's the Confederate, as was called then, Army of the Potomac, who they're reporting as having half as many men. Now then, we do not have an awful lot of good quality stuff in here. There's not a lot of guns. Oh, actually, I say there's not good quality stuff. I'm apart from those 6-pounders, we actually have some proper artillery. So I take that all back. A little bit of cavalry, and ooh, not an awful lot of infantry. However, the enemy are in equally bad state, and as soon as we can get those 12-month volunteers, we're going to boost the numbers up. However, I think we can probably risk pushing down here and trying to knock them out. Now, what's over here in the Shenandoah? There's 2,200 men there versus ours 5,000. Okay, so Robert Patterson. This chap was supposed to distract the rebels in the valley to stop them going to supporting the rebels over here. And he failed miserably. Hence why the rebels then won the first Battle of Manassas, or Bull Run, later. But that is an opportunity for later. I think we're going to advance down here. I'm going to try and take Winchester. We have 5,000 men. We have a reasonable commander, and we outnumber the local insurgents, shall we say. We've also got McClellan over here. I should move him over, and they can start building a depot. Depots and supply work a little bit funny in this. It's not like you build a supply chain. It's they gather supply locally, and that's a big thing. I don't know if we need to... We might need to build one in Cincinnati for Halleck and his one staff officer. We should have one already. Yeah, we've got one in St. Louis. That's good. Okay, that army is not ready to march out yet, but we'd like to go and give them guys a good thrashing when the opportunity comes. Oh, we've got a battle kicking off. I set them on defensive mode, so they've laid siege, which basically means they've dug trenches and are facing off against each other. We don't want to do that. We actually want to go straight to war So one cool thing that the game does get very well right is it uses a lot of historical maps. This is actually the Bull Run battlefield, and I think that's awesome. And I love the way that these are drawn in as well. We've also got a lot of reports on army strength in here. It's good. I like the way these are done. However, I find them utterly useless, so we're going to pretend they're not there for the rest of this campaign. We're not going to look at them at all. What we are going to do is deploy McDowell's men. We're going to switch formation as far forward as possible, stick them there, and then we're going to use these two roads to advance down. And there should be some rebel, there we go, victory point locations here. And I think the Rebs are probably going to be holding a position over here. We're going to try and go down the roads if we can. We should be able to outnumber them quite easily. What we can do, which is a nice little trick, is we can just put the guys on the roads ready. We'll have some cavalry ready to lead off. Now, one thing you veterans of this game may notice is that we have a few more artillery models. That was one of the changes in the settings. So I don't know if it's one model gun per gun in the battery now. These do get bigger later on and it looks a bit crazy. It does mean that we have to think a bit more carefully about how we position artillery, and the effectiveness of artillery, in particular shell, has been altered. So I'll link that down in the description. Go check it out. It's actually, I think, quite a good change, but we do have to be a bit careful with things. Okay, we've given our orders and we can zoom out, change up to 20 times speed, and we can see our units moving on the map. I do like this. This is really good. And of course, once we zoom back in, we can see where everything's going. Now, I'm just trying to get some vision on the enemy to start with, because we don't know where they are. So I've sent the cavalry off in front. We suspect they're going to hold one or both of these. And then once we've spotted them, we will move some forces into a position to attack. In fact, the infantry's already down here. Let's get these guys moving up the road. I know, I'm taking some serious chances now. Actually, let's have a division moving down there, and then we can spot them a bit quicker and then move on that. Maybe they're just going to fortify this hill on that side. Or maybe they're not there at all. Maybe they've set up completely differently. Nope, we've spotted them. They're coming in. Actually, one cool thing is if you scroll around the map, you can see the dust clouds where the enemies are moving. I really like that. And you can hear all sorts of noises and stuff. Now, the graphics in this aren't amazing by any means. Oh, we can zoom in more as well now, by the way. That's also just a setting change. It allows us to get the camera a little bit closer. I think if I deploy these guys here, we can interrupt whatever's coming down there. And let's get the artillery moved up as well. All right, we've got some more stuff on this side. I need to get some vision. Let's send the cavalry out. Change it to 5 times speed, so we should be able to react quick enough if we see anything. It's never quite knowing what the enemy are up to. They can be devilishly devious. Or sometimes they can just be absolutely crazy stupid, and the AI can do some stupid things. However, the same can be said of the AI commanders of your units as well. All right, we've spotted artillery. That needs dealing with. Do we have anyone with rifles here? We do not. So let's deploy skirmishers. And we will send those guys forward. The cavalry can get on their flanks. The cavalry actually have as good a weapon with the Sharp's carbine as the infantry do with their smoothbore muskets here. Actually, let's just get in a little bit more like that. We outnumber them. We should be able to take advantage of this. We've got artillery coming up. Let's deploy the skirmishers and send them forwards into those woods. If nothing else, they will disrupt the enemy motions as the enemy react to us. Gone straight in there. The skirmishers probably won't stand long. Oh, it's okay. We've driven the enemy artillery off. That's even better. Unless there's some more that I haven't seen. So this is good. This is very good. Right. Our skirmishers are being driven back. That's fine. Let's position like this. And I'm going to actually annoy them by sending some skirmishers over there. We'll get that other victory location. bring some cavalry around the back. We'll probably dismount them, I suspect. And I think we're going to go for the good old... just the good old frontal assault here. And the artillery is going to be able to do nothing over there. I don't think we can even see, so... Oh, it seems they have better guns than me. Right, let's make sure that that's not a thing. Let's send the cavalry in as well. Skirmishers withdrawing, as expected. Okay, I'm going to apply some pressure here. Into the woods. And better go on 2 times speed just for the moment. Did our guys get over there? They did. So they will capture it, but being a small unit, it will take some time. Is that just a That's just a detachment. Screw you guys. Let's send the cavalry in there at a charge. They'll win, but I just hope they don't get volley fired. Oh, they probably will get volley fired. Okay. We're going to chase them. We're going to take a load of casualties and then pull back. There's cavalry in melee in this game. It doesn't do well. Yeah, I mean, historically, charging the front of an infantry brigade would be crazy. But even doing things like trying to run down skirmishers and stuff, you can soon find your cavalry in a whole heap of trouble. However, we did okay there. We're going to try and get them in a position where they can dismount and shoot using their carbines. I'd say these boys are in a world of hurt. Let's send everyone in. We've got some skirmishers over there. Oh, that's a whole brigade. Burnside's men. There's not many of them. Okay, yeah, I think we've got this sorted. So take you guys off that. Get around the back of that big infantry brigade over there. And let's dismount. Loose order. Nice. Nice. The whole lot's about to run away. This is excellent. Enemy is retreating. So what we can do, and this is debatable over whether this works, is we can mount up the cavalry and send them in. And I say debatable because they don't actually... No, it's not worked. Now, the games, I think the developers' reasoning for this is that if we look at what happened historically in Civil War battles, is that retreating armies weren't run down by the opposing side's cavalry. And that's generally true most of the time. And armies did generally get away. That was mostly through them having some sort of reserves or rearguard actions, or the attackers just been too disorganized to actually pursue effectively. But anyway, for whatever reason, we can't just run down fleeing enemies in this game. And I think it's for game balance. Otherwise, we'd be able to wipe out the enemy really quickly. And we saw big issues with that in Ultimate General American Revolution, didn't we, once cavalry came to the game. So, we have won the first battle of the Civil War. It's been rather a small affair. And the number of men engaged was a decent amount. The number of casualties were very low. And so we'll take that as a nice win. Alright, victory at Alexandria. Lieutenant Colonel Hampton loses face. That's one of their guys. I don't think there are any great battle honours for any of our chaps in there. We didn't really inflict enough casualties to get anyone famous. And certainly not enough to gain any experience yet. But even so, that was a suitable start to our military campaign to reunite the Union and bring peace once again to the North American continent. Now, anyone that would like to take part in this as a unit, I'm not going to put the military commanders in this time because that's a huge amount of work. But if you like a unit of volunteers naming after you, let me know what sort, if you have a preference of the state and a name, and whether it's cavalry, infantry, artillery, and I will stick them in the game once we get to at least the 12-month volunteers and maybe some as the 24-month volunteers come in. Just leave a comment under here. And I will make a list, guys, and I will get you into the game, and we can follow your unit's illustrious career as we play. Also, please do give this video a quick like, and leave a comment down below. Anything will do. It always helps on the first episode of a new series. It's the one that makes the biggest difference. It gets put out there amongst YouTube land so other people can see it. Come and join us, and that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, folks. So stay cool. Let me know if you like a unit in here. I will see you in the next episode, and we'll also be playing Hearts of Iron, my Argentina campaign, intermittently with this. So I shall look forward to some more Civil War action, because I got to get my fix in.